living with HIV is the stigma behind it and the judgment that you get from other people. And just me living with it, being born with it as a child, you already deal with bullying and the adolescence of, dealing with your hair and your body image and things like that. So on top of that, having to deal with the stigma on HIV, that was hard for me. When I was 7 years old, that's when I found out that I had HIV. My sister was receiving a scholarship to go to Florida A&M University, and our grandmother who raised us is a woman who goes by the church. She's a Christian lady, so she believed that everything that God did for our family was something that was supposed to be said and she's supposed to tell people. So I guess she didn't realize that it was going to be put in the newspaper. So as a 7-year-old, that's how I found out about the status. So other people, not only did I find out, but the community found out as well. So when I went to school, I didn't experience bullying right away because I was only in 2nd grade, but I experienced the stigma. So all of the friends that I had, they wouldn't sit next to me at lunch, they wouldn't play with me. One girl came up to me and she said, "I heard you have HIV. And you can't say you don't have it anymore because my uncle had it and he died." So as a 7-year-old, I'm like, wow, I don't have friends and you telling me that I'm about to die too. So also in the newspaper, it also said that my mother died from AIDS, which is something that I didn't know either. So seeing that my mother died from AIDS and I was living with HIV and finding out all that out at the same time in the way that I found it out, I just felt like my life was over. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like it was no point in living. And my grandma, she loved me through it, but I resisted it. She would keep me in the church, praying for me, always putting blessed oil on me. Every time she take me to school, we going to school, she gonna pray for me before we go to school, talk to me, and just guard me with the armor. She would guard me before I left the house. But when I left the house, I would go out to all types of things. So once I got past elementary and I went to middle school, that was the worst. That was when I really did experience bullying. It was girls talking about the way I looked, talking about my hair, talking about everything about me. It was something wrong with it. And also it was always rumors around. A lot of times I would overhear things, or I would have people ask me questions or stuff, or treat me weird or treat me different. So I knew it was because of my HIV. And just me being a child, not understanding life, not understanding myself, I identified myself with HIV. So everything that people said, everything that, each way that they treated me, I just took that on as that was who I am, that was what I needed to be. So I became very rebellious and I got in trouble at school a lot. At first I would just kind of retreat to myself and be quiet, and they called me a mute because I wouldn't say anything, and that was like my defense mechanism. Just to be quiet and not say anything. So they would send letters home all the time, write and not talk to them, write and not talk to them. So I was in trouble, I guess, for that. But eventually I started talking, but I was saying all the wrong things. I had an attitude and just very defensive because it's like I took on the idea that the world was against me. And just seeing not only the way people treated me in real life, you see things on the images. My grandma made us watch the news all the time. So you see stuff on the TV and see how they portray HIV. Everything around me, everything in my life was against me, except my grandma. But ironically, I was against her. The one person that loved me the most, I was against her. But my grandma, I appreciate her now because she gave me the tools that I needed. Even though at the time I didn't know it, she gave me the tools that I needed. Like my grandma I remember the time I came home from school and I said, "Grandma," I was crying to her. And at first I didn't say anything, but she knew if Mariah not eating, there's something wrong with her. So I came and I wasn't eating and I wouldn't say anything. So she was like, "What's wrong? Everything okay?" And I'm just like, "Grandma, everybody hate me. Nobody want to talk to me. I don't have no friends." And she said, "Well, they talked about Jesus." And I'm like, "Grandma, I'm not Jesus. What are you talking about? Why are you telling me?" So, things like that. That was her love, but I took it as, "Grandma, what are you doing? I need you to do more. I need you to be there for me. I need you to protect me from these people and stop these things from happening." But Grandma couldn't do that. So I did a lot of things to my grandma that I regret. I was trying to fight and, you know, getting suspended all the time, talking to her crazy, and she didn't deserve any of that, you know. Also, not only in school, but church also, I experienced church hurt, because, you know, kids in the church were clicked up as well. My very first crush was a boy in the church, and we spent a lot of time together, but he would tell me, you know, you're perfect, you're beautiful, but you have HIV, so I can't be with you, I would never be with you. So, you know, I took that on. Everything everybody said to me, I observed it and I absorbed it and took it on and just took it as my identity. Like, I'm never going to be in love. I'm never going to have a family. I'm never going to have friends. And that was just what I took it as. So I just began to hate myself. And eventually I got to this point where I can stand here and talk about it. But before I got there, I had to deal with that. So I'm a poet, I write. That was what I did to kind of escape from all of that stuff. I would just sit in my room and just write and read my Bible too, because a lot of times my grandma would say, if I would tell her something that was going on, she'll say, go find it in the Bible and then read it. And me being rebellious, I'm like, Grandma, that's not going to help me. I need you to tell me something else, because that's not going to help me. Sometimes I would go in my room and then come back and say, Grandma, I looked in the Bible, I didn't find nothing. She's like, you ain't look right. Hey, something is up to everything. So you go look again. But I hated it, and I'm going to share a poem with you all just on that part of it, just of how much I hated it. So, HIV, I hate you. Abruptly you came and interrupted my life. Innocently from me, there was no invite. Anguish you bring, relentlessly you reign. Running through my veins like a poison, I became your slave. I gained some courage to retaliate, but resilient you remain. So my strength I relinquished, but from my defeat you gained so much fame. Thick you became like a lion's mane, wrestling me to my grave. Your violence I can no longer tame. The more I stay in, the more I break. My heart grows desolate, barren, and bleak. The pain you inflict is so opaque, the victory I can no longer see. I just want to be free. Break loose from your captivity. Almighty God, why must you torture me? If this be a curse, Lord, please forgive my sin and let your grace flow within. Have mercy on me, Father. If I didn't have faith, I wouldn't even bother. My faith is strong enough to move mountains, but my strength alone is too exhausted. God, you promised that your strength would be made perfect in my weakness, so I stand before you weeping. Lord, wipe away my tears and take away my fears. You sent your son to die for me, he said, and I repeat, if I be lifted up from this earth, all men shall be drawn unto me. So, Father, I exalt your name, your face I desperately seek. I just want to be free. So, that's that. So, I went through that. I wrote that poem when I was in college. What happened was I couldn't live with my grandma anymore because I was just too rebellious. I was too much. And her being an elderly lady, I watched my grandma. I remember one day I was sleeping and I heard my auntie say, please save my mom. And I woke up and I ran down the hallway and I saw my grandma laying in the bed shaking and foaming out the mouth and her eyes are rolling back. And she was having a seizure. And they had to take her to the hospital, and she stayed there for a few months. And that, I don't know, my world was just crashing because it's like I didn't know, everything was out of control, you know. This disease came into our life. It took my mother, which was my grandma's baby, and it took my life, and everything was just out of control. So it got to a point where I had to come and go ahead and move to Tallahassee with my sister, because my older sister was here in school. She was going to FAMU. So she went ahead and just took on the role and said, I'll just take you to come home. So my sister, she made it very a point. If you come up here, you're not going to do the same thing. You have to do better. So she made me go to school, and she made me take honors classes and AP classes. And I was scared, but she said, you can do it, and you're going to she was working at CMS. She was doing an internship there. So she would take me to my doctor's appointment and she would just sit there and not say anything. She said, you need to talk. This is your body, this is your health, this is your life, so you need to talk. You need to go and research your medicines and the side effects and talk to your doctor and take control of your life, because this is your life. She also made me set my own doctor's appointment. She made me call in my prescriptions, and it was what it was. It was no discussion about it. It was no fighting. It was no arguing. We're gonna do it, and that's that. So when I got to Tallahassee, my life was just better because I didn't have everybody knowing everything about me. So I had the choice to just keep it to myself and focus on living, focus on studying, focus on getting what am I gonna do with my future. So when I graduated from high school, my sister graduated. She wasn't in FAMU anymore. She was at FSU as a grad student. So she graduated from grad school about a week or so before I graduated from high school. And like a bird, she pushed me out of the nest and she said, what are you gonna do? Because when I graduate, I'm leaving. I already got plans to go to Charlotte, so what are you gonna do? And I'm like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? So I applied to FAMU and I got accepted. And I was really excited about that because my grandmother came to FAMU also, and she met my granddad there. He wasn't a student, but she met him here on the hill. So I was proud of that. And then my sister at FAMU, I was proud of that. So I said, okay, I'm at FAMU too. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just went into business and I stayed there. I got accepted into the scholarship house. So I was living there and I was going to school. And I was by myself. I didn't have parents to call on, you know. A lot of the people in a scholarship house, they were on the phone with their parents all the time. I didn't have that. You know, I had my sister, but I was a little rebellious with her too at that point because it was like, who are you? You're not my mama. You can't tell me that. And that was a line that I used all the time as a defense mechanism. Anytime somebody tried to help me, you're not my mama. You can't tell me what to do. But really, I was just upset because this disease took my mother, and there was nothing I could do about it. As much as I wanted to hear answers from her, I still have questions, and I had to just accept the fact that it's never gonna happen. I'm never gonna have that mother. But my sister was trying to do that for me. I pushed her away, so eventually I had to just deal with the fact that here I am. I have to grow up. I got to do it on my own, and I wasn't ready for that. So a lot of times I stayed in my bed and just cried, and I missed school. I wasn't on track, making good grades. Like I could do the work, but I didn't want to get up and go to school. And I remember at some point, I went to my doctor and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to take this medicine. I don't want to keep coming to the doctor because I didn't have a car, so I would have to go walk up the hill to get to the bus stop, and then ride the bus an hour to the doctor's office. And from Southside all the way over to Capitol Circle, Miccosukee area. And I just didn't want to do it. I just felt like it wasn't fair. I'm living in a scholarship house, so I'm seeing all of these girls live their life and just having so much fun and doing things that I couldn't do. You know, you can't hang out at night when you got to come home and take pills. You don't know what may happen. You may end up staying the night at a roommate house or at a friend's house or drinking all night. I can't do that because I got to take pills. I got medicine to take. But obviously I couldn't tell people that because I didn't want people to know, you know, what was going on with me. And so my doctor told me, she said, well, I'll give you a holiday. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but that's what they give. That's what they call it when they say you can get off your medicine for a little bit. They'll give you a holiday. So she said, I'll give you a year. Really, she was just kind of like, she was a mother figure to me. So she was just kind of testing me, kind of letting me see what was going on. So it took about 6 months, and I started experiencing flu-like symptoms and depression, and I had to go back to the doctor. And so she did my lab work, and she saw that, also, I don't know if you guys know, but when to be diagnosed with AIDS, your CD4 count goes down to 200. So my CD4 count got to like 3-something, and she was like, you can't do this no more. Like, you need to get on your medicine. So I said, okay, well, you know, whatever. I kind of gave up on life, but at the same time, I didn't want to die. So I said, okay, I'll go ahead and do what I have to do. So she said, well, what we'll do is instead of taking 3 pills a day, we'll give you this medicine called. I do whatever I have to do to keep pushing through. So for someone to say that looking on the outside in and not really knowing what I was dealing with, that crushed me even more already because I already had these internal thoughts about myself. And so to be, okay, I want to go to college, I want to fulfill this legacy of my family, and now I'm failing. Like, I can't even get out of bed. So, you know, that was hard for me. So I began to start going to therapy, Sunshine Manor on campus, and so I spent a lot of time there. This was very depressed, very sad. And I just gave up. I dropped out of school, I left. I just didn't want to do it no more. And what caught my attention was a boy, and I felt like he was someone from back home, and he knew that I was HIV positive, and he still wanted to be with me. So I felt like he loved me. So I went with him. I had my baby, the best thing that came out of that relationship, and I got beat up in that relationship. I got verbally abused, physically abused, thrown down to the ground, spit on, cheated on, all types of things. I was I'm sorry for the language, but I was the AIDS infected B. And so that just made me feel like, you know, I was already down. So to be with somebody like that, it just made me get to the point where I couldn't go any lower. So I was just ready to just fight back. I'm just like, I don't want to do this no more. I just forget everything. So I left my son with his grandparents. I let them repossess my car. I left my apartment, even though I had paid up my rent. I didn't care. I just left everything, and I moved to Tennessee, and I just stayed there for about a month and a half. And when I was there by myself, not talking to anybody, I wouldn't answer my phone or anything. I just went there and I prayed and prayed and prayed. And I wrote, I journaled, I just wrote things to myself, just how I was feeling and what I wanted. And that experience just showed me that everything that my grandma was putting inside of me was still there. Even though I didn't know what was going on, it was still there. And so that just gave me my strength. That was where I got my power, when I was just by myself. And I just got to hear God talk to me, which is the next poem that I'm going to share with y'all. You sent your son to die for me. His face I began to seek. And when he came, I saw me. My spiritual being stretching comfortably into my flesh, nestling into my flaws and insecurities, washing me into a new identity as we join together in the name of I Am. Together, we have manifested great miracles. We have faithfully carried and defeated the cross of loneliness and fear. Together, we have reversed the curse that killed my mother and used it as the seed to bring forth the fruits of my spirit. The manifestation of my healing is here. Here, where I have accepted, where I have humbly submitted to the washing of my flesh and welcomed HIV along with myself into the body of I Am. I'm now walking in my truth. No more shame, no more hiding. My truth brings light, and in that light I consume and emit love. Fresh fruit that brings prosperity to me and those around me. As I walk in my truth, the sun blesses those that come to serve me and burns away those that come to hinder me. HIV has been entangled into the body of I Am and therefore burned away. I came to improve this flesh, but I did not come to stay. I am just passing through and doing great things. So that was that poem that I wrote. That was me just accepting myself. So once I did that, I was able to come back and get my son back, get an apartment. It was slowly but surely. And my roommate will tell you, I pray a lot. I pray a lot. Some people mistake it when I'm positive and I talk about God and I talk about how good life is. They mistake it and they think your life is perfect. I think your life is perfect. No, it's not. I pray and I push through it because it's hard every day. Some days I don't want to get up. Some days I don't want to take my pills. But I got somebody depending on me. And he don't have nobody else. It's me. The one thing that I wanted more than anything was my mother. I wanted my mother more than anything. And now I can be that for him. And sometimes I even hear him, my roommate will tell you that too. He'll look over my shoulder and he'll say, Grandma. And I try not to, I'll say, he didn't really say that. He didn't say that. And she'll say, I just heard him say, Grandma. So I know she's with me. and I know my spirit, and I know God is with me through everything. And it's like, coming here, I say, I'm talking about HIV. I don't know if it's okay for me to talk about God, but I can't tell my story without talking about God. I went through a lot of things, and I resented everything, my family, my friends, myself, even God. God, why did you do this to me? I felt like Job. Why did you do this to me? I didn't do anything. But I know now that God did it because he knew that I was going to be courageous enough to be able to talk about it. He knew that I was a fighter because after everything I was going to be through, I wasn't going to stay down. I was going to fight back, and he knew that. Even when I didn't know that, God knew that. All I needed to do was understand that God was not this vengeful creature in the sky trying to, I don't even know what my perception of God was, but I had to understand that God was me. God was my spirit, and it's inside of me, and HIV can't touch that. And what everybody else got to say about me, and everybody else judging me and scared to deal with me, that's their problem, because I know who I am, and I'm going to just keep on walking. I get nervous when I go and talk. I get nervous when I'm at big cares and I got to go, talk to the clients and stuff, but I know that God is doing this for a purpose. I know that I was called, and I know, and I hear it everywhere. God is not just in me. God is in everybody. God is in everything in the world. So as I walk around and I talk to people and I get to know people, people tell me things that I know that was God speaking to me. So I'm going to still keep walking. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what God wants me to say. Even today, riding here in the car, I don't know what to say. But I pray, and I just say, God, just use me and flow through me, and you just have your way. Because I don't have any choice but to just give my life to God. What else would I do? If I don't, I'm going to just live with HIV, be depressed, be sad. I just got to give my life to God. If I didn't want it, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to treat myself right. I didn't want to love myself right. So why not just give it to God and let God say, you use me, and you do what you want to do. So I just want to say thank you all so much for the work that y'all do. Thank y'all so much for being brave enough to work with people with HIV and not being scared of us. Thank y'all for the love. I appreciate it.